Hey guys, Mast here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and today we have a special guest on the channel. You know him, you love him, he is my boy, Toonarami. Say hello, buddy.
Hello. I am very sleepy, but I'm very excited to be here. What's up, buddy? We did it.
I
We
know.
did it.
I
We
know.
did it. We did it.
Yep, so those of you who aren't aware, Toon mentioned it on Twitter, I mentioned it in my video yesterday, I actually showed his tweet in my video yesterday, but yes, last year when the Heroes banner came out on Global, we predicted the release of Super Saiyan 4 Broly and or Super Saiyan 4 Vegito for the next Heroes celebration, and yeah, here we are. So obviously we're waiting for all the details for that. The latest hype news is that it is most likely coming to Global. It's kind of like, I would say at this point, like 90, maybe 95% confirmed because of the whole copyright thing that I talked about in a previous video. I guess very quickly, if you don't know, some people who posted the super attack animations for the Super Saiyan 4s got copyright claimed, and in the information for the copyright claim, it said it was claimed because of content to do with Dokkan Now, which obviously means that that content must be in the Dokkan Now episode, which is only about Global. So that means that Super Saiyan 4 is most likely coming to Global. So what we thought we would do today is, as you can see here, I've got the Heroes category up on the wiki. And if we scroll down, there are still quite a few units in this SSR segment down here who do not yet have awakenings to TUR. So we are going to go over those in today's video. Just give some brief thoughts on what we could potentially see. And yeah, there's a sort of even split between Extreme and Super. And what better way for me to start than with the first masked Saiyan, the black masked Saiyan. So, did you actually pull this guy at all, Toon?
No, I don't think I have a single one of the. Well, how many masked units are there? I don't think I have a single one of them. Just the two, yeah. I didn't get any one of these guys. Most of the Extreme Heroes units I didn't have the pleasure of using, except for the Makyuka Demigra. I think he's the only one out of these like collections of units. Yeah, so
yeah,
nope,
so
have not had the privilege.
Yeah, unfortunately, because of the way Global did the Heroes banner, when we got the first one, they just kind of dumped in a lot of these units like this one, but they were all unfeatured. So even if, like me, I think I did sort of 500-600 stones on that first Heroes banner, and there's still a few of them that I didn't get, but I did get one copy of Black Mask Saiyan. So for those of you who don't know anything about Heroes and can't tell from the very obvious artwork, this is Vegeta with a Timebreaker mask.
Oh,
so.
Right.
So the thing is, for an SSR, he's actually not bad at all. So he does immense damage with his super attack. He lowers attack and defense. I mean, immense damage on a base SSR is pretty good already. And then he gets...
So I was just gonna say, I notice a trend already with the masked units. I'll let you finish before I say it.
Okay. But yeah, so his passive, he gets attack and defense 90% when key is 6 or more, an additional attack and defense 30% when key is 8 or more, and then 2 key when key is 10 or more. So it's kind of a weird passive, but it means you only have to get him to 10 key, and then he will super attack, as well as getting those extra bonuses. It's kind of a weird passive, because obviously if you only get 6 key, you're not going to super attack, but you're still getting the attack and defense buff. So I think for me, off the top of my head, the first thing I would like to see if he gets an awakening, obviously his super attack's not going to change because he already does immense damage. Maybe the attack lowering could increase to greatly, but I feel like that would, coupled with immense damage, that might be a bit much. But the thing I would like to see is, with these extra stages of when you have X amount of key or more, probably just adding in more attack and defense, and then potentially giving him some sort of built-in additional, because obviously that would capitalize on his attack lowering. So what do you think? I'm quite interested to hear this theory about the masked unit, so please.
So for these mass units, right, they all cause immense damage and they lower attack and defense. And by all, I mean this one and the Dark Masked King. Now you might recall there is another particularly famous masked unit, Mast Saiyan, if you will, who also happens to do the same thing, causing immense damage and lowering attack and defense. So either this is coincidence or this is their shtick. This is going to be the thing that they're known for. They cause immense damage by lowering attack and defense. So I'm guessing if this guy gets a TUR of some kind, he will probably not be able to infinitely raise attack and defense. That might kind of cheapen or trivialize the value of an ECA upgrade, but he'll probably gain one of the two. So he'll become an infinite defensive stacker or an offensive stacker, and also cause immense damage and lower attack and defense. I feel like that would be in the cards for this unit if they were to follow suit with this whole Mast Saiyan thing. Because I feel like no other unit, I mean, there might be a few, but like this isn't a very common thing. Do you think it's coincidence that the Mast units have this ability?
I'd never even noticed that before, but that is a very good point, because obviously even when he came out, like the fact that Mast Saiyan did immense damage as well as lowering attack and defense wasn't a super common thing. And obviously we have seen in the game that they do like to do these themes for certain things, like the Super Saiyan 4s all have super attack counters, most of the Vegetos have like normal attack counters. So I could kind of see, even though it is only 3 units, I could see that they deliberately did that on purpose. So maybe again in the future, obviously we pretty much know, unless they reveal something else extra, we know what the new units are. But obviously there is the Masked Super 17, and there's also a Dark Mask Super Saiyan 4 Broly as well. So it'd be interesting to see if they ever add those in, if they stick to that theme as well. Because yeah, I'd never noticed that, but you are absolutely correct. They all do that, so it's quite interesting.
I mean, there are only 3.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So it could be a coincidence.
I think
but...
in your defense and in a lot of people's defenses, you know, there's not really much to pick up on a pattern. So,
so yeah, I did pull one copy of this guy, so it would be nice to get some extra ones. And then, of course, I did show him on screen since we mentioned him briefly. But yeah, the next one is, of course, the Dark Mask King. The 2 units are very similar. Again, he does immense damage, lowers attack and defense. And then his passive is a little bit more, I don't want to say basic, but more straightforward. You don't have to worry about ki. His attack and defense 80% straight off the bat, and then an additional defense 70% for 4 turns after receiving an attack. So it's one of those weird ones where you obviously have to get hit once first. So kind of like the recent awakening that we got for West Kai. You're kind of hoping that the first attack he takes of the turn isn't a super attack. Because then once you take that first hit, then you get your defense buff. But then he does also recover 10% damage dealt as HP. So I could see that percentage possibly going up. Obviously his base attack and defense would probably go up. As well as possibly the additional defense that he gains, which would actually make him quite a good tank. Obviously after he takes that first hit, he could become very powerful defensively. And again, for people who don't know, as you can see in his categories, he's in Vegeta family. The Dark Masked King is actually Xeno King Vegeta. So
what?
I know. So the other thing I think that could be interesting is, I mean, they could probably keep his name the same. They wouldn't necessarily have to change it to being like Xeno King Vegeta, but it'd be interesting to see if they did awaken him to a TUR, they actually remove. I guess they would have to change the name, wouldn't they? I was going to say if they had the mask off and the hood off, because then you can see he actually is King Vegeta, but he's got like black hair, I think, with like a red streak. I'll throw an image of it up on the screen. But yeah, it's Xeno King Vegeta. So I didn't actually pull this guy, unfortunately. But yeah, what do you think about this guy?
So I don't know if they are going to want to buff everything or kind of like improve on everything at once, because when you're already lowering an enemy's attack and then also gaining defense after getting hit, it's kind of a double point swing. So like if you lower someone's attack, like for example, I'm trying to think, I believe it's Supreme Kai of Time. She seals the enemy and massively raises defense. That's not only a one-dimensional move, but it's a two-dimensional move, because you're limiting their attacks to just their normal attacks, and you're also massively enhancing your defense. So you're accomplishing 2 things with the same attack. So I feel like in that same light, if they were to do something like that, where they maybe amplified the amount that they lower the enemy's attack and defense and then boosted your defense upon getting hit, I feel like that would be too steep a change in one maneuver. I don't know if they're going to want to do that for a unit.
I mean, the only thing I would say about that, and I guess it kind of applies to Supreme Kai of Time as well, is in some of the harder events, obviously once you get past the first couple of stages, you can't lower the enemy's attack. So then technically he would only be getting the benefit of having the increased defense. And I think that's something that would obviously then make them better in those longer events, because you're removing the ability for them to actually do one of their abilities, but then obviously having that increased defense would obviously help. And then of course, like you said, same with the Black Mast Saiyan, there is the possibility that they add something to the super attack effect to like infinitely stack. Maybe not both, but like maybe one of them would do defense and one of them could do attack. Because there's not much else they could do to their super because they already do immense damage, which is already good. So obviously, once you factor in TUR stats and then whatever increase they give to their passive, they will actually be hitting reasonably hard. So both of those I think could be very interesting.
You were also mentioning about the possible name change. I'm trying to look through the Dragon Ball Heroes units. There aren't too many units that have name changes when they go from SSR to TUR.
Yeah.
I think the only one that really comes to mind would be the Cumber. And then, honestly, I think that's it. Wait, Cumber? I think there's one other one.
Technically the Gotenks, because he goes from being like adult Super Saiyan Gotenks to them being Super Saiyan.
Oh, yeah. The other one is Alms, but he's not even summonable. So, yeah, it would be the Gotenks and the Cumber. So, having another one would mean... I mean, for these types of banners, right, you're summoning, you're getting a guaranteed featured SSR every time you summon. So... it would behoove them to add some sort of extra value for the whales, at least, where having, you know, the SSR and the TUR maxed out would be good. So
yeah, because one thing to think about is they did this with the last banner with the Super Saiyan 3s and Supreme Kai of Time, where when they give the units awakenings, they potentially add them as featured units to the banner. So say, for example, if they gave this guy an awakening and he awakened into the unmasked, like Xeno King Vegeta, and his name actually changed, because you get a guaranteed featured unit per multi, it then wouldn't necessarily be as much of a shaft if you end up pulling like 10 copies of him, because the two versions have different names. So that's something that potentially could happen. So moving on to the next one, we have Super Mirror. So the Android category hasn't really had any buffs in a while. And obviously we've seen now from the JP side, whilst we probably are going to still have to wait a little bit longer, I don't think they're going to tie that in with our Heroes drop. But we obviously see the original Mirror has kind of returned to prominence. Not only is he back in the pool, he has an awakening that is pretty good. And so obviously this guy, since they are essentially the same character, will be a pretty good link partner for him. So he was always kind of useful. I think I used him for the Android run for the Legendary Goku event when they added all those missions, because he does infinitely stack defense, and he is one of the few units like the Int Goku Black who actually raises his defense by 50% every time he super attacks. So obviously if you get like an additional super with this guy in one turn, his defense jumps up by an insane amount. So obviously I feel like that's not going to change. I don't think they'll change his super attack at all, because he already does supreme damage. I doubt they'll add, like give him immense damage. And then his passive is attack 100%, disables enemies guard, which is a kind of ability. And then attacked enemies, attack and defense minus 20% for 2 turns. So for this guy, I don't really know. I mean, the attack could increase, maybe give him a little bit of base defense to start with, but he's kind of already set. He just really needs that awakening to increase his overall stats and just make him generally better from like turn 1, because obviously his main role is to be an infinite defensive stacker. So what about this guy? Did you said you didn't get many of the extreme units, so did you get this guy at all?
Not only have I not picked this guy up, I've actually I never really known anything about Mira and Toa, because I never played. These guys are from Xenoverse originally, right?
Well, so technically, originally, they're from this MMO called Dragon Ball Online, which I'm not even sure how officially licensed it was, because it wasn't around for a while. And technically, they were first in that, and then, yeah, they used them in Xenoverse as, like, the main villains. And then they kind of became the main, like, villains of the Heroes/Xenoverse type thing, because they're the ones that are always meddling with the timelines.
So I've never really had any sort of exposure to these units except for in Dragon Ball Z Kakaroto.
Okay.
Aside from that, yeah, pretty much non-existent in terms of my relationship with these units. Never ever used them. Honestly, I like this build just to begin with. It's very unique. So I'm guessing if they do give it TUR, like you said, it would be a very toned down defensive boost initially, just to get him started. Because honestly, after a couple attacks, he's good to go anyway. So they'll just give him a small little defensive boost, and then if anything, they can lower the attacked enemy's attack and defense by maybe 30 for 2 turns or 3 turns or something like that. It's not a very like heavy, massively game-changing maneuver, but it is something that will be useful once in a while. So.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess that makes him a little bit more useful in shorter events like Super Battle Road, where you're obviously not getting as many turns to build up that defense, but you're then having an instant effect in that you're lowering the enemy's attack.
You know what's funny though? He's an extreme STR. So that Super Battle Road would get even easier. It's already ridiculously easy. You know, dude, my first try, Extreme STR, Extreme Super Battle Road, I beat it because of all the nerfs.
Yep.
So imagine throwing this guy on there.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many units on that build that just completely destroy the enemy's attack stat. So yeah, he's... I think his links aren't the best. He does have Fear and Faith and Nightmare. So yeah, he probably would fit on that team fairly easily, to be fair. He's also on Revenge, which I've never noticed. I guess because the Revenge category came out like after this guy came out. So I didn't even realise that. But...
Wait, what does he need revenge for? What did he do?
I'm not actually sure, because I don't know what the story is behind Super Mirror, because obviously in Xenoverse, which is where I know them from, because I played Xenoverse 1 and 2 quite extensively, he was just the normal mirror that we already have, like the physical one. And then in Xenoverse 2, he does the thing which the Awakening for the physical one does, where he absorbs Toa and becomes what I thought was called Super Mirror, where he has the weird, like, white Super Saiyan 4 sort of form. But apparently this form is called Super Mirror, so I've actually never seen this, so not knowing the full details about the hero's like storyline, I'm not actually sure what the deal with this form is. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he could do, and like I say, especially because the other mirror is coming up as well at some point for us, so they would make a very good rotation together as well. And so the final extreme unit that we have is the weird demon Demigra. How do you say his name, Toon?
Makyuka form.
There you go, that guy, Demigra. People were interested in this guy when he first came out because I heard him described as like a mini Rosé, because he gives all extreme class allies 3 ki, he debuffs the enemy's attack and defense, and then he has a very solid attack boost as part of his passive, as well as greatly raising attack for 1 turn with his super attack. So really the only main problem with this guy is he has no defense. So if he gets a TUR, they just need to throw some defense into that passive.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean,
greatly raising attack and defense, and then they'll give him attack and defense plus 120%. Boom,
yeah, I was going to say that's literally all they need to do, because that plus TUR stats, he will then be very good. And of course, he's on Resurrected. Well, obviously, all of these units are on Heroes and Time Travelers, but he's on Resurrected Warriors and Realm of Gods. And both of those teams now have very, very strong rosters if you want to make full extreme versions of the teams. So yeah, you give this guy some defense, and then honestly, I would say if you want to run a full extreme version, he would almost be like an auto include as a 3rd slot floating support unit. So
you know it's funny. There's so many times where I'm considering doing a Super Battle Road video, and I assemble my team, and I've got a whole bunch of extreme units for every type. Then I look at the extreme side, and it's either Booze or it's this guy, and it's like, why can't you be better? I want to bring you on my team so badly. Why can't you be better?
Yeah,
I still end up bringing him, but like I have to pray that he dodges.
Yeah, it's like almost everything about his card is like looks good to me on first look, and then you see, oh, but he has no defense.
Yeah.
So, because then it means, I mean, yeah, he has that part of his passive where he's lowering the enemy's attack, but if you can't lower the enemy's attack in the event that you're doing, then obviously that doesn't help you, and then he has no defense. So he's one of those units. I think I only pulled the 1 copy of him. But if I'd pulled multiple copies, I feel like he's a unit that I would have given dodge to, and then now if he does get an awakening, I'd be annoyed that I gave him a load of dodge. So I guess on the one hand, only pulling the 1 copy of this guy probably wasn't the worst thing. But yeah, I guess we will see. So we will be moving into the super units for part 2s, but to start us off, I want to talk about this guy right here. So he doesn't fit the theme exactly of what we've been talking about, but I love the Super Saiyan 3 units. I wanted to talk about this guy. Super Saiyan 3 Teen Gotenks. He was one of the first Heroes units that came out, and one of the first Heroes units that got a TUR. And obviously you can see just by looking at his passive, he is one of those older units from a bygone era where units just would not have any defense in their passive whatsoever. And obviously in 2020 Dokkan, that doesn't fly anymore. His passive is literally attack 100% when performing a super attack. So if you don't get a super for whatever reason, he literally has no passive. So he does supreme damage. He stacks for 6 turns, which is good because obviously if you get additionals, you can stack that up multiple times. So he has the potential to hit reasonable attack stat numbers if they improve his passive. And I mean, you look at his links and stuff, because he awakened from medals from the actual Gotenks event, he's got Fierce Battle. So if they made him a more solid unit, I feel like he would be one of those units that you would pick pretty much like straight away for a Super Saiyan 3 team, or even a Hybrid Saiyans team potentially, because of the fact you can use the like Super Saiyan 3 Kid Gotenkses. So aside from the obvious of giving him defense, is there anything you would like to see them do for this guy?
I mean, look, this unit is so old and archaic in his just build that an EZA wouldn't be even something that would be in the cards for this unit. Like, I feel like he's so old and so ineffective that he would get the EZA treatment. You know what I mean? Like, he's that, I guess, old-fashioned in terms of, like, what he brings to the table, that he would be relegated to an EZA upgrade instead of a full-fledged, like, or easy area upgrade instead of a full-fledged EZA. I don't really see them. First of all, it's not going to happen either way.
So the only reason I wanted to include it is because, along the same vein as what I said, what we talked about on the podcast, with the fact that if they were ever going to do Heroes on both versions at the same time, the 10th anniversary would be the time to do it. And I kind of feel like that extends over to this. Is we're sort of in that period now where anything can happen. So if they were ever going to EZA one of the older Heroes units, what better time than what is essentially the biggest hero celebration that we've ever had. So, but I do agree, I don't think he would necessarily get a 30 stage EZA, even though we would all prefer that, because, you know, get those 30 stones, get the tech guys, all that stuff. But yeah, I could see him being like a Extreme Z area, and maybe you have to bring like the Beat and the Arms, because they're the 2 farmable free-to-play Heroes units. Maybe Cumber as well, I guess, because they'll probably bring back all of the Heroes story events when this stuff drops.
They're also going to be dropping a new one, so they'll probably be... Yeah, maybe. You know what? Maybe.
That would be kind of cool. Make it so, you have to use the free-to-play Heroes units, and then just include all the other Heroes units, and then a bunch of, like, I guess, other free-to-play units that are somewhat similar to Heroes. You could throw on things like the free-to-play Super Saiyan 3 Broly, stuff like that.
I mean, you know what? Dude, you and I predicted Super Saiyan 4 Broly, Super Saiyan 4 Vegito a year ago, so who am I to question?
Yeah, right? Exactly. You never know, man. Anything could happen. So
we literally predicted this at the end of our collab during the last Heroes banner. Like, it was, I'm pretty sure it was at the end of the collab, we ended our recordings and we were just talking as we were wrapping up, and I'm pretty sure this came up. Like, I think that's how it went.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, like I say, anything can happen at this point, and he is the perfect unit. How many units have we seen? Like, the ones that come to mind straight away is when we got the Battlefield. I always call them that, even though they didn't come from the Battlefield shop. But the 7 units that awakened with that one EZA. So many of those units were like this guy, where they were super old. They had like no defense in their passive or anything like that, so you just didn't use them at all anymore. And then literally every single one of them, they gave them an EZA, and I think every single one they just did something like defense 100% plus whatever else they gave them. So yeah, again, whilst I don't necessarily think it's super likely, now would be the perfect time to do it. And yeah, they could literally just do anything with this guy, because his passive is practically non-existent. So they could do anything with this guy for an EZA, and he would be better.
Since he's a Heroes unit and he's Super Saiyan 3, they'll probably give this guy some sort of abilities that resemble the Super Saiyan 3 Trunks, just because he does kind of share that in the temporary stacking department.
Yeah, so they both. I think they've split them, haven't they, a little bit though? Because I think the Gohan and the Vegeta are more offensive based, and then the Goku and the Trunks are more defensive based. And then this guy's kind of in the middle. I mean, who knows? If they really wanted to, like, change it up, they could give him a similar sort of thing that we've seen with the other Gotenkses, where he has different super attack effects based on the amount of ki that you get and stuff like that. They could make him something actually really interesting. But I mean, he stacks for 6 turns, so I mean, straight away, if they gave him like immense damage and then he still has that 6-turn stack, like that's already going to elevate him to be pushing out some decent attack stats. And then you just change him to like attack and defense 120% at the start of the turn, not when performing a super attack, and then already he would become way more viable of an option. So but yeah, that's the thing with Easy A's. I mean, we've seen them give some Easy A units some really weird abilities that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So if they are going to do it, which I hope they do, they could actually go crazy with this guy, and it would be quite interesting. And then we could see him. He would, I would assume, then be one of the units featured on the banner as well, which would be nice, because like I said, I didn't get this guy either. So but yeah, anything else you can think of for this guy? Or
I just want one copy of all of these, because like I'm starting to miss this. Like
yeah.
When I don't get a unit, I look away, you know. And now that I'm looking at all these again, I'm just realizing how many units I never actually got to pick up. So I'm gonna need to pick up some of these, man.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get lucky. I'm probably going to be summoning quite a lot, so
I think I'll be there with you, man.
But yeah, so we are going to move on to talking about the super units that need an awakening, but that is going to be in part 2 over on Toon Rami's channel. So make sure you check out the link in the description below. Go and check out part 2. Let us know what you think over there. Let us know in the comments section here what you think we could possibly see for the awakenings for these extreme units and a potential Easy A for this Gotenks. So anything else you would like to add before we jump over to part 2?
No, man. I'm excited for the Dragon Ball Heroes collab. You made a tweet about this, and I agree. I am more hyped for this than I am any other banner right now.
Yeah, because I mean, that's the thing. We all know that the Blue Boys are a super good unit, but it's a legendary banner. So you could drop 500 stones and not pull them. I mean, we all know the stories of Truth, Nolar, and Calc. Like, I know they go for the rainbows, but they all took like 10k stones to pull 5 copies of them. So it would be very easy for mere mortals like you or I to drop 500 stones and not pull a single copy of them. Whereas if you drop 500 stones on the Heroes banner, you're pulling 10 featured units guaranteed, plus whatever else you get in those multis. So yeah, very exciting. So yeah, I'll leave it there. We don't want to drag this last part on too long. Jump over to part 2, link in the description, and let's talk about some super units over there. So from myself and Toon Rami, we will see you in part 2. Have a good one.
Good night.